Yochanan Gordon is a writer for the Times of Israel, and he posted an article on August 1st titled, "When Genocide is Permissible." I kid you not. I kid you not. I could end this segment right now, and you already know how absurd Yochanan Gordon is as a human being, and how absurd the Times of Israel is for running the story. How many people were in the room during the editing process when they said, yeah, let's run it. Let's run the story when genocide is permissible. I didn't know that was a debatable topic. And I would think the Times of Israel, of all papers and of all people, would be sensitive on the topic of genocide. Would you not? No, apparently not. So let me read you a portion of his piece so you can see he's being 100% serious. He says, quote, "News anchors such as those from CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera have not missed an opportunity to point out the majority of innocent civilians who have lost their lives as a result of this war. But anyone who lives with rocket launchers installed or terror tunnels in or around the vicinity of their home cannot be considered an innocent civilian." So, if in any way, shape, or form you were responsible for the so-called terror tunnels, which, by the way, don't just bring in weapons, but they also bring in food and water and infrastructure materials and all kinds of things that need to be brought into Gaza, but they haven't been brought into Gaza through traditional means. Why? Because there's a fucking blockade and they don't allow those things in, right? So if you're involved in the tunnels in any way, shape, or form, even if it's not for actual weapons, right? Well, then, you're just as guilty as the rest of them. I mean, you're a terrorist, right? I mean, if Hamas goes into your house or your neighbor's house or your sister's house and they set up a rocket there, well, look, you may have had nothing to do with it, and they may have forced themselves into the place and set it up there without your consent or your approval, or, you just don't want to get killed by them, right? So you allow it to happen, but no, you're just as guilty as they are. You see what this is? This is what's called non-nuanced thinking. This is gross black and white, living in a world that's so didactic and one-sided, and we are always right and they are always wrong. It really is a genuinely childish way of thinking. And they're saying you cannot be considered an innocent civilian if you're in that scenario. They continue, quote, "Hamas has been seen abusing civilians who have attempted to leave their homes in response to Israeli warnings to leave. Well then, you're beginning to come to terms with the nature of this enemy, which should automatically cause the rules of standard warfare to be suspended." Oh, I see your argument. They're really, really, really bad, terrible people. So we should also be allowed to be really, really bad, terrible people. Oh, I see. You want to use the same kind of tactics that they use to prove that you're better than them. What would that be called again? Oh, that's right, a logical contradiction. He says, quote, "Hamas has stated forthrightly that it idealizes death as much as Israel celebrates life." I'm going to come back to that irony in a second. "If political leaders and military experts determine that the only way to achieve its goal of sustaining quiet," interesting word to use there, "is through genocide, is it then permissible to achieve those responsible goals?" Understand what he's asking there. He's saying, look, if the only way we could achieve quiet, did not say peace, said quiet. If the only way we could achieve quiet and shut up these rowdy Palestinians is through genocide, well, isn't that a permissible goal? I mean, isn't that something we should be able to achieve? I'm just asking the question. I'm not drawing any conclusions. Yeah, tell me again how, quote, Israel celebrates life. How ironic is that? In an article where he's saying, Hamas, they love death, Israel, we love life, but anyway, let's commit genocide against the Palestinians. Tell me again how you celebrate life? You're celebrating life by wanting to kill all Palestinians. It's funny. That's weird. How big of an idiot is this guy? What an idiot he is. At first, he refused to apologize. Did you know that? There was an article that came out after this one saying he actually refused to apologize. He doubled down on his article. And then later, he ended up coming out and saying, yeah, look, my bad, didn't mean it. And the Times of Israel ran a little segment or a little paragraph that said, yeah, our bad. We don't associate ourselves with that. That's kind of fucked up. But how did you release it in the first place, man? This is insanity. It's insanity. He also says, quote, what other way, then, is there to deal with an enemy of this nature other than obliterate them completely? Obliterate them completely. You know, I didn't even need to go through the entire fake nuance of the article and all the lines because you heard the fucking title. The title of the piece is When Genocide is Permissible. I'm fucking speechless. Now, keep in mind, man, that's not all. We have more insanity. Deputy Speaker and member of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ruling Likud party, Moshe Feiglin, has called for the conquest of the entire Gaza Strip. He posted to Netanyahu's Facebook page, quote, what is required now is that we internalize the fact that Oslo is finished. That was a former peace deal from the early 90s. And that this is our country exclusively, including Gaza. Turn Gaza into Jaffa, a flourishing Israeli city with a minimum number of hostile civilians. But again, that's not all. He called for tent encampments where the Palestinian civilian population would be, quote, concentrated. Oh, how we've come full circle. Here we have the deputy speaker and member of the ruling Likud party in Israel, who believes not only in Jewish statehood, but in Jewish dominance. He's come full circle, and now a Jew is advocating for concentration camps. How we haven't learned the lessons of history. Yeah, that's going to end well. Give Palestinians concentration camps. So now we have multiple top-ranking Israeli politicians and leaders calling for genocide, and multiple publications calling for genocide. Wall Street Journal said Palestinian civilians aren't civilians. There was a rabbi in New York who said the same thing. Anybody who's ever spoken to, associated with, or voted for Hamas, Israel should be able to kill all of them. Ayelet Shaked, the Israeli politician, hey, let's do the women, the children, the innocent people aren't innocent, let's kill them all. And now we have more people to add to that list. And clearly you can see how those evil, savage Palestinians, they're just so violent. It's all them, man. They're the only guilty party in this entire conversation, in this entire conflict. You know, I naively thought that certain things weren't debatable anymore, you know? Like, certain things, it's not, like, we can all agree on certain things. Genocide is bad. We should try to strive for peace. But no, I'm the idiot who was a naive optimist who thought that people would understand that. But it's not the case. People don't get that. People run to their corners and defend their kind and defend their state at all costs, no matter what the fuck they do. Bombing multiple UN schools, bombing hospitals, bombing a beach where innocent kids are playing soccer with no Hamas in sight. Okay, over 1,500 Palestinian civilians killed, over 80% civilians killed, but the entire time they take no responsibility whatsoever, and they brazenly call for genocide in the process. Here's the conclusion I've come to. If you have ever advocated that killing civilians under any context is acceptable, or right, or just, or can be defended, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're a moron. You're a clown. You're a joke. You're a fool. You have no morality, and this is most important. You are immoral and you are unethical. So maybe Israel should look in the mirror here, because it appears to me that it's clear that they are becoming the devil that they were trying to avoid.